let's tackle monogamy first, and then we can like catch up because I'm really excited to hear about what you're doing.
For sure. Also, monogamy was just what I happened to be talking about at the time with my roommate. So we don't, I mean, if there's something that feels more relevant to you right now, that feels more juicy, because I feel like we've tackled, well, no, we sort of have. But my roommate was asking me about the history of monogamy and what I knew about it. And as far as I can tell, monogamy is a relatively new concept. I mean, I don't know.
How new are we talking? How many? What year?
Well, in terms of like I think what we have to start thinking about is when we expected men to be monogamous, because I think women were expected to be monogamous for a longer time. But when we think about like, yes,
Question:
hmm
Are men expected to be monogamous right now in these times? Hold that thought. My daughter's knocking on the door.
okay,
She did not knock on that door one time before we started this phone call.
you can smell it. She knows that you're busy.
I
Are
mean,
men
what-
expected to be?
that's just life. That's just life going like you're gonna yell at your kid. Are you gonna have grace and composure and understand the bigger picture of things? And I passed. So
Yeah, beautiful. You passed your own life test.
I passed my life test. Okay.
You're
So
asking, are men expected to be monogamous now? I mean, I would say yes, more so than ever, unless you are in a polyamorous relationship, which of course is like more, I don't want to say more common now than it's ever been, but certainly more talked about and more in the cultural zeitgeist than it's ever been before.
what what
Yes.
about like rock stars?
Yeah, I mean, I think they receive pushback that they wouldn't have 100 years ago or 50 years ago. I mean, yeah, we know about rock stars cheating on their wives, but I think in general it is frowned upon. I'd say cheating is more common than any of us would like, and that it happens on both sides. I think the stereotype is that men cheat more often. I don't know if that's actually factually true. I think we find out about men cheating more because men are less subtle and less sneaky in general. Sneaky is not the right word. I would say they're less subtle, less subtle, less tactful. Let's just say. Um, I think it doesn't surprise anyone, but there's certainly blowback. Like I don't think a lot of people are like, yeah, cheating on your wife or your girlfriend is a good thing.
Okay, let's go back. You see, it's so great that you brought this up
Hmm.
because I was just having this conversation yesterday.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Isn't
So
that the magic of how it works? What was
yeah.
your conversation yesterday?
My conversation yesterday was oh crap. Keep going what you're saying. It'll come back to me.
Right. So, I mean, if we look at, history,
I remember.
okay.
So it's something that you alluded to. What when I feel like back in the like we'll say like Cowboys and Indians days all the way up to like the 80s, would you say that men weren't necessarily expected to be monogamous, but women were? Or is it a farther back
I
or
think I'm thinking further back. Like I'm thinking about, okay, for instance, in the Bible, we hear about people having multiple wives. In cultures today, having multiple wives is still seen as acceptable, but I think that was at least in Western civilization, biblical literature, like having multiple wives was very commonplace, um, all the way through like Elizabethan times and the Tudor age. Like most monarchs had a mistress, like, and it would be like a formal mistress, and that was accepted and fine. Whereas if a woman or a female royal had like an affair partner, that was cause to be put to death. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of. Like, yeah, this like culturally permissible non-monogamy that was known about, that was accepted, and this extreme double standard. I would say at least from like the 1600s back. That would be sort of my assumption in Western society. Again, I'm like going at it from this very particular slice. Um, which of course, like Christianity, which was the dominant religion in the West, very clearly condemns non-monogamy. It is pretty clear on the fact that once one is married, that is considered a sacred bond, and that sex before marriage is bad. So pretty much anything outside of sex in a monogamous relationship is not deemed moral. Um, but yeah, in terms of our culture, I would say us actually following that is more of a recent thing. But now we're in this interesting time where we're out of we're going back to non-monogamy as an option, and it's being talked about in a way that's, to me, at least in my circles, it's like no longer taboo. It's almost like boring at this point. Like being non-monogamous formally, not cheating, but like choosing to opt out of monogamy is now like very commonplace.
Is that, would you say that's with a certain age group or just as a movement?
Well, I mean, I hear about it with people of all ages. I would say probably more like the millennial generation would be who I have in mind in particular. Maybe, I don't know if you know, I don't know if you have friends or people in your circle that are non-monogamous. I would assume not, but I don't know.
Uh, I do not. Just off the top of my head, I don't know anybody that's in a relationship like that's openly non-monogamous,
Okay.
right? Like, I'm not saying people do stuff, but I'm just saying, like,
Not
where,
that you, it's not talked about. It's not like dinner table conversation.
oh, definitely not. Like,
Okay.
yeah. But also, I'm also around people in committed relationships.
Right.
I mean, well, not that I guess if you choose non-monogamy and committed relationship, whatever,
Yeah, there's a lot of like,
stereotypical relationships,
yes.
even like my gay friends. I mean, they're in like stereotypical kind of relationships, like they're dedicated to each other kind of stuff. Well, that might be touch and go too, but that's for a totally different reason. I don't think that has to do with commitment. I think that has to do with the overall maybe lifestyle and maybe expectations sometimes. That's a whole side thing, right? I wonder, is this just an ebb and flow of society?
Sure. Perhaps. I'm also thinking about something in particular, which is if we think about the institution of marriage as a financial and resource based arrangement, which some people argue is the case, especially like pre Christendom. If we go back, it's like, yeah, securing a marriage was a way of securing resources, um, creating alliances between tribes. Like there was a very tactical reason to get married. And now, as we're in very uncertain economic times and stressful economic times, I've actually seen, not just for this reason, but people kind of turning to non monogamy as a way to basically share in resources, to like live, have more people living under one roof, to have a bigger support group of individuals coming together basically as a way to like hedge hedge your bets against uncertain economic times. I don't know if that's making any sense of what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, I feel like you're describing the 60s and the 70s,
Yeah.
right? So that's what, again, so I'm like, is this just like an ebb and flow based on society, economy, and things like that?
Yes.
That there will be a period where people are more committed to each other.
Hmm.
And that's kind of a cool, I mean, not a cool idea, but an interesting idea that like how our economics impact us might impact our relationships and how people view relationships. I've never thought about that.
Yes. Definitely, yeah, this economic portion is kind of occurring to me as somewhat of a novel thing just because I hear about it among clients and among friends and this sort of thing. I also do think about non-monogamy as a lifespan thing, right? That this is probably something you're going to be much more apt to explore, be excited about in your 20s and 30s, and the older you get, and the more you realize that your emotional energy is limited. And you're like, well, I kind of just want to stick with one person that actually just seems to make more sense. Um, that feels like a better use of my time is to pour more into one person. Although the thing is, people cheat all across the lifespan. So I don't know. I think in my own personal experience, this was a concept that I found really radical and cool and interesting when I was younger. And now I find there's something just very mundane about it. Even though it is, I don't know, I think some people see it as like, this is very juicy, this is very interesting, this is so non-traditional. Whereas at this point, I'm like, this is just like any other way of being in a relationship. There's just more people here. And it's like more time and more logistically complicated.
Is that what you okay? What do you mean by mundane?
Mundane isn't like it's I think I've heard about it enough and encountered it enough, even experienced it enough when I was younger, that it's it's just lost its excitement. It just seems like, okay, this is another option for how you can walk through the world that has maybe some upsides, but like tons of downsides. And just like any other relationship, it's not like you actually get to escape the things that make a relationship difficult. You're still going to have to deal with other people's feelings. You're still going to have to show up for people when you don't want to show up for them. You're still going to get like the sparkle of the initial romance is still going to fade. I think there's some notion that like this is a way of hedging against all the things that make long-term relationships difficult, like just the fact that it's challenging to be with one person forever. And it's like, ooh, maybe we can escape it by having like multiple people around and kind of by shifting constantly from person to person. Um, but there's no actual escape from those greater themes that make partnership difficult, that make life difficult.
I think that I had this friend, and there's just like a shit ton of divorce in his family. You know what I mean? Like just everybody's divorced, whatever. So it's like a blended or mixed family, whatever you want to call it, right? And he was just talking about how great it was, like just how fantastic this was. And there was a lot of parts of it where I was like, that does not sound fantastic. This does not sound like, I mean, and I think, I'm feeling this and seeing this in my own life. The stuff that raises you, whatever you're raised by, and those things, I mean, they really do impact you a lot about how you see the future unless you take charge and want to change it. You want to make some sort of change. And so how things are presented to you, like I think this is an example for me, me and Aaron aren't married, right? So as Lucy's growing up and she's getting older, and like, her friend, all of her friends' parents will probably be married, maybe, and something like that. She's gonna be like, "Hey guys, what the fuck?
Mhm.
Why aren't y'all married?" You know what I mean? And like, how do I explain that to her? And what do I say? And what does that mean? And how does that shape how she views relationships? Like, oh, my parents' relationship was great. They weren't married.
Mm,
I don't need to get married. I don't know. I don't know. You know what I mean? And I hope that I talk about it enough, and that I talk about why and the reasons why, and give legit reasons why, so then she can make her own decisions, really. Let's be honest, right? I don't want to shape it as like, hey, why aren't y'all this? And it's like, well, just what we wanted to do. Instead of
how would you explain it to Lucy?
like why we're not married.
Yeah.
Initially, I would have explained it as, this is just the real of it, right? Is that because Aaron wasn't working at the time, and claiming them both as dependents on our taxes was better than claiming them separate, right? Or if we got
Mhm.
married, I would, that we would file together, right? So
Mhm.
I think maybe Aaron filed by herself. I don't remember, but whatever, it made tax sense.
Yes.
And so
Which is I mean, it does come down to this sort of, I don't want to say pessimistic view of marriage, but very practical view of marriage, what people talk about. It's like this is like it is a financial decision, it is like a tax break. And so if you're not actually reaping the benefits of being married,
I say this all
then
the
what's
time.
the point?
I like the first time that I got married for all the reasons that everybody wants to get married.
Mm.
And part of getting divorced is understanding that, as awesome as a thought as that is, there's also a business aspect to this whole thing, right? And that just makes it non-romantic.
Mhm.
But like if you marry the right person, you ain't got to worry about it. You know what I mean? But there is a financial business part of this. And so in going into my next marriage, you know, I like this is the God honest truth. I treat Aaron the way I should have treated my ex-wife.
Mm.
Right. And that's neither here nor there, and that's a whole nother person. So whatever. But like I treat Erin like she is my wife. I totally treat her like she's my wife,
Of
right?
course.
And so now that she's working full time, and and now she has a job, that changes it. So, now getting married makes more sense financially. It was something I already wanted to do anyway. Yeah.
You do want to do it.
Yeah, of course. But
Oh,
like,
I didn't know that.
well, yeah, I mean, yeah, but I mean, it really comes down to, you know, it really hasn't been an option on the table in the sense of like, we weren't either one of us in a real big rush. We're here. I mean, so, but now that, there's a different financial complication, like, hey, well, what do you think? Is this something you really want to do, or do you don't, or whatever, because I mean, we need to talk about the financial impacts of what it has on us. Like, I don't know. I don't know if this is true, but I think in maybe most relationships, the business part of a relationship is boring. It's boring. Nobody wants to do taxes.
Taxes and
Nobody
yeah,
wants to
budget.
balance a budget. Nobody wants to like talk about how we're going to afford a brand new TV. But those conversations happen, and if you can be really efficient at those, then when you have real hard conversations, it makes those conversations easier. And maybe you don't have to have as many hard ones because you're not boiling up with all these shithead ones.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I think that makes a big impact on relationship. I mean, one thing I can say about me and Aaron's relationship that is different than my previous relationship is I really learned to let a lot of stuff go. Just like
Yeah.
let it, let it go.
Yes.
I'm on a roll singing all these things. Um, because if it's not going to have some giant long-term impact, it's not even going to matter. It's
Yeah.
so not going to matter. And it's really you kind of getting over it. Me and Heron had a situation the other day that I got kind of teed off, and I took the whole day to just sit on it. And by the time I got home, I wasn't any more happy about it, but I didn't want to, like, I knew that, like, there's no reason to talk about it because by tomorrow, this is going to be fine.
It's not going to bother you.
Yeah, like it's not gonna bother me. And by the next day, I was like, well, I'm kind of still irritated, but like whatever. If it's that important to her, it'll come up again, and I've already thought about it some. So like, I don't need to go chase her down and tell her shit, and whatever. So I don't know. I mean, those are just things.
Well, and I think that, but there is this idea, right, in non-monogamy that by having multiple relationships, some of those relationships will exist outside of those mundane conversations or the boring parts of the relationship, the business parts of the relationship. There are going to be some partners that you don't have to talk about taxes with or finances with or logistics and who's going to pick up the kid and who's going to get the groceries, right? Like you get to have these relationships that escape all of those aspects of like drudgery.
But
And
but
and the question is that then a full relationship? Is that escapism? Is it just being able to distill the like loveliest, most pleasant parts of a relationship into this other part of your life, so that it's not as full and all encompassing, but it gets to like cheat its way out of, I hate to say that, but like kind of cheat its way out of all the things that make daily life difficult.
I don't know if this is true, but in this way, ready? In
Yeah.
this way, me and you are in my life, we're in a non-monogamous relationship. Right?
Because we hang out for like an hour every week, max.
Because you're truly my friend of the opposite sex. I don't know if that matters or not, but you're truly my friend. And like Aaron doesn't want to talk to me like this.
Mm.
She's tired of this shit. You know what I mean? And so you give me this great space to like be myself, and we have these great conversations. And I don't have to have that expectation of Aaron of something that like she doesn't want to do. And to be honest, probably I don't really want it either. You know what I mean? Now, what that means sexually and physically with other people, like, how that translates, because I feel like when we talk about non-monogamy, right? Okay, so obviously it's, having sex with other people, but it's also other relationships with other people. And what are those relationships like? That relationship with that person, like I just fuck them. That's all we do. That
Mm.
just and I do the taxes with this person and I have sex with this person,
Yes.
right? So like it's a similar type of thing, but we always kind of frame it as sex. But like, like I like I love our relationship. You know what I mean? I value it very, very greatly. And like,
Too.
and I don't know. I don't have to explain it to Erin. She kind of understands. I don't know. She trusts me. I don't know, and like that's enough.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting. That's the argument for non-monogamy. To me, it's also the argument as to why do we need this, right? It's like why because ideally, wouldn't you just have multiple friendships or different kinds of relationships in your life that you don't feel the need to have multiple partnerships, romantic partnerships, that you could just have your needs fulfilled by having a lot of friends? And that's not to throw shade on anyone who does non-monogamy, because that's their argument for like, well, you have a lot of friends who fill different needs, so like, why couldn't you have a lot of partners that fill different needs? Um, I don't have a great answer for that, other than it sounds exhausting.
Yeah. Look, this is just my experience. You can have multiple friends, but you can't be fucking multiple people. It's just it is. I mean,
You
like
can, but it makes everything really complicated.
yeah. I mean, I just think, in a weird way, I don't know if this is true, but in a weird way, when a relation, any type of relationship turns physical in any type of way, dance partner, um, abuser, any type of way, it changes the relationship, right? Because it's another thing, I guess, that's been added in, or it's another impact. And so, you know, I think I have a lot of great relationships. I have a lot of great relationships with people of the opposite sex. I have a lot of great relationships with people that are older than me. And none of those have to be my relationship with Aaron. My relationship with Aaron is something totally different
Yeah.
and special to me. So I don't share it with everybody. You know what I mean? And I don't know what that means, but all I know is that like I don't feel a need to have multiple sexual partners. So whatever that means.
And I imagine you've not tried non-monogamy.
Like openly on like, hey, you like we're like Cristiano Ronaldo has like four girlfriends or whatever, and they all know about it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, no, I'm not that baller, Hannah. Like I'm not like rolling in like, yeah, like yeah, let's go,
I mean, if you wanted to go all in on that as a lifestyle, you could choose it, but you are not choosing to do that with your time.
Okay. I don't know how long we were supposed to do a freestyle. We probably went like 20 minutes or something like
As
that.
usual.
Before we get out of here though, everyone has met or known like a couple that's between the ages of, we'll say, 45 to like 65. They're just like way too sexual in public. You know what I'm talking about?
No. So can't say everyone. I don't know. Old couples that
No,
are sexual in public?
no, like you've met these older people that they're just like a little too frisky in public, right? Like they're probably, maybe they're swingers, or maybe they're just like really open about their sex life or what.
Okay, maybe theoretically. I mean,
I
jealous.
wait, I
That
wait
sounds
a
like a
lot
great
of
way to be.
tables and bartending. Maybe that's why I keep running into these people.
Okay, fair.
But like I would always run into these people, and I would think, kind of like what you were saying, like um, non-monogamy sounded exciting in my 20s and 30s, but it sounds exhausting like now, right, or
Fair.
whatever. And I feel like, yeah, like they thought the same thing. They were like, yeah, let's do it in the 20s and 30s, and they just never stopped. They just like kept going, right? And I'm always like, what keeps you going? Like, what keeps that going? Because for me, mine is shifting to like, yeah, like multiple partners just sounds more money, more problems. You know what I mean? More,
Yes. Although some people do find it later in life. I think that is a thing. Like when
but
the kids have grown up.
I think that, you know, at least for me, every decade, I'm evolving into a different type of person. Some version of what I was, but like a different person. You know what I mean? And I thought about this a lot. What makes great actors is when they're in their 20s, they do roles from their 20s, and when they're 80, they do roles from their 80s. They're not trying to still do 20-year-old roles in their 80s, right? They evolve their character, and you as a person should evolve as your character. And this is the phase I'm in now. Maybe, Lucy graduates and Aaron's like, let's join a nudist colony. I'm like, let's go. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't
You
know.
might.
Change my mind too, but that's fine. That's totally that you should. You know what I mean? And maybe this is your phase now. You're like, hey, I want to be monogamous. And maybe 20 years from now, you're like on a cruise, drinking like horrible pina coladas, and you're just like, one of these guys tonight is gonna get it. You know what I mean?
That could be my future. Especially over the past couple years, I realized I have no way of predicting the future. I'm terrible at it.
Well,
Lot of things can happen.
I think it's good to point your ship and manifest things that you would like, but part of that is noticing all the other things that are like coming up and happening, and do they fit into that plan? Like going like, oh, there's this external stuff, does it fit into the plan, or is that something I never even thought of before, or I know that's not something I want, and like taking, you know what I mean? And then all the unplanned stuff, you kind of hopefully can maneuver around well.
Yeah. Yeah. Steadfast but flexible.
If you have something that's mixtape therapy for you, you should let Hannah know. You can let me know, but you should let Hannah know.
Let
Hannah,
me know.
next time.
I'm going to tackle it this time.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.